lawsuits.
Yeah.
You knew this was coming.
I low-key forgot about the lawsuit, dude. What's going on, guys? Your boy JJM Wrestling back out here with another wrestling reaction video. And in today's video, we're going to be reacting to Tap Out Corner's top 10 worst wrestling moments in 2024. Now, listen, my opinion, I ain't gonna lie. 2024 has actually been a dope year for wrestling. I mean, we had the best WrestleMania ever, in my opinion. WrestleMania 40 was goated. Storyline has been top notch. Now, don't get me wrong, though. There have been moments, as we see by this frame right here, we could have gotten it to be a little bit better. But let's check it out. Oh, before we even get started, do me a favor and power bomb that subscribe button. Yes, sir. And also, go subscribe to Tap Out Corner as well. Shout out to him for making a video.
These are the top 10 worst things that happened in wrestling in 2024. This list is open to any company, WWE, AEW, TNA, and more. Nobody is off the hook. And to make things interesting, we'll find out at the end which company had the worst 2024.
Each ranking will result in that company getting a strike. The higher the ranking, the more strikes the company will get. The company with the most strikes at the end had the worst 2024. With that out of the way, let's start with...
Number 10, Samantha Irvin leaves WWE.
Bro.
Despite being a ring-announcer, the fans are somewhat divided on Samantha Irvin.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie to you, yo. This was kind of a shock to me. She was doing her thing. She was getting recognized. She was getting over with the fans, bro. And she ends up leaving. Now, supposedly she leaves because she's pursuing what she wants to do. So shout out to her for that. But this got me. This was definitely one of those worst moments. I ain't gonna lie. She was really good.
Irvin. One side loves the energy and personality she brought to reintroductions, while the other thinks she took too much from the show. I think a wrestling show works best when everyone is doing the best job they can,
Facts.
So I always appreciated Irvin's reintroductions.
Yeah.
However, in October 2024, Samantha Irvin abruptly left WWE. Apparently, the reason for Irvin's departure was to pursue a music career and other projects that she couldn't focus on while being part of WWE. However, I think the most shocking revelation came directly from Samantha herself. While replying to a comment on social media, Irvin said she never really liked re-announcing, and it was more of a way for her to get into WWE. It was surprising because she seems so passionate about announcing that I would have never guessed she was indifferent to it. I get that Samantha Irvin was just a re-announcer, but she was on a roll and on her way to potentially being the greatest announcer of all time. I wouldn't rule out a return, but if Samantha Irvin comes back as a re-announcer, I think it's gonna feel a bit awkward knowing that it was just a stepping stone.
Yeah, she kind of left, bro. Yeah.
Number 9, Jimmy Uso versus Jey Uso.
Oh my God,
WWE
this one, bro.
has a fascinating tradition of having real-life brothers face off.
Classic number 1. I saw that one. I remember watching that.
It was Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. At WrestleMania 25, it was Jeff and Matt Hardy. And at WrestleMania 40, it was Jimmy and Jey Uso.
Bro, I really had really high expectations for this match. I am not gonna lie. Brother versus brothers, they always did good, but this one was not it. But I get it though, because maybe they were short. I think they were short on time, if I'm not mistaken. They were really short on time, and obviously they had the bloodline storyline becoming more of a bigger thing. So I get it, but dude, this match could have been just a lot better. They could have went in.
So, on paper, Uso vs. Uso sounds like a good idea. They were key parts of the Bloodline storyline that had been going on since 2020. The WrestleMania match had a ton of build and a great story. It seemed impossible to mess up, so here's how they messed it up. The match was slow, with awkward pauses throughout. It just never really got going, which led to the crowd dying, which made things even worse. In fact, Jimmy Uso had to yell at his own daughter to get off her phone.
He wanted to be with his brother. He wanted Jimmy to get away from the damn bloodline and Roman Reigns.
However, the biggest complaint of Uso vs. Uso was how many Dane super kicks it had.
Yeah, bro.
I'm honestly surprised the Young Bucks didn't file a lawsuit. Guys, that move used to be a finisher. Making it even worse was that Jimmy and Jay didn't sell half of the super kicks. I guess it's those hard Samoan heads. Besides that,
dude, this was another one, dude. Just the super kicks after super kicks, they overdid it. I get it. It's a very famous move and it's part of their Uso thing, but still, bro, like, They could have done a lot of technical things, and they both got it. I mean, we even saw it with Jimmy at Survivor Series. He was going in. He was like the MVP there, you know? So I get it, though. They were a part of a bigger storyline than this. But this could be a dope storyline.
The two lacked chemistry. Jimmy Uso's acting in the middle of the match, asking for forgiveness, wasn't good, and the whole ending felt underwhelming. I guess it was kind of fitting that Dude Wipes was the sponsor. What really stinks though is that this was a story that essentially began 14 years ago when the Usos debuted in WWE, and this was the payoff. That's 2 additional strikes against WWE, putting them at 3. Number 8, TNA fires Scott D'Amore. At Battle for Glory 2023, Impact Wrestling announced that the couple
I keep pausing this video, but hey, I'm reacting to it. But this right here, this was fire, bro. The fact that this happened and they brought the TNA word back, the TNA logo back, like they brought it back, and then he ends up getting fired. Like I showed up to the TNA event that happened last year. This was gonna be dope, and he got fired. L move.
Company would be no more. Instead, they were going back to their roots, and they would now be called TNA again. TNA's president, Scott D'Amore, made the announcement with this famous line. The name change became official on January 13th, 2024 at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. Not only that, but the event also had the largest live gate for the company in nearly a decade, so it seemed like TNA was starting off 2023 on the right foot. However, that didn't last long. About 3.5 weeks later, Scott D'Amore was abruptly fired from his position as TNA president. It was never flat out said what the reason was, but it seems like D'Amore wanted more to be invested in TNA than what Anthem, TNA's parent company, wanted to invest. Either way, it was upsetting for a lot of wrestlers and fans. Scott D'Amore had been instrumental in helping bring TNA back, and a lot of wrestlers enjoyed working for TNA under his leadership. It seemed like the textbook definition of a lull TNA moment. As I said, TNA had a successful relaunch, and they seem to be on a resurgence. Then, TNA fires its president. Now, to be fair, TNA still has done pretty well.
Yeah.
About 5 months after Scott D'Amore's firing, TNA hosted their Slammiversary pay-per-view. That had an even higher attendance than Hard to Kill. Additionally, TNA has expanded its partnership with WWE, with more TNA wrestlers appearing in WWE and vice versa. Scott D'Amore launched his own wrestling company in October 2024, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. So even though D'Amore's firing wasn't a good thing, it seems like everyone rebounded. Still, that's 3 strikes against TNA.
I didn't even know about that.
Number 7, Chris Jericho's learning tree. Chris Jericho is one of the best wrestlers when it comes to reinventing himself. Y2J seemed to always know exactly when and how to introduce a new character or gimmick, and it was almost always a hit. However, in 2024, Jericho hit a bump in the road. In March 2024, Chris Jericho attempted to mentor Hook. When Hook didn't take the bait, Jericho fought and defeated him to become the FTW champion. Y2J then dubbed himself the Learning Tree and began offering unsolicited and arrogant advice. The Learning Tree soon turned into a faction, with Big Bill, formerly known as Big Cass, and Brian Keith at Chris Jericho's side. Now, I get it. The Learning Tree is meant to take the criticism of Chris Jericho.
That's AEW, bro. Shout out to those people over there, bro, but it's WWE's where it's at.
And other veteran wrestlers and turn it into a gimmick designed to get booze. But just because I intentionally made a bad meal doesn't mean the food is now suddenly good. Now, I don't think the Learning Tree is inherently bad. I think it has more to do with Chris Jericho. I feel like a lot of people would agree when I say I don't think it would be bad if Jericho went off TV for a while. Why is that? Well, obviously, there were the sexual misconduct allegations that surfaced in late 2023. As far as I know, there's never been any real closure to it, which left a bad taste in people's mouths. There was also the infamous picture of Jericho's wife participating in the January 6th insurrection that began floating around too. But talking about the Learning Tree itself, it just doesn't have the allure like Jericho's other gimmicks. It seems like he's less focused on creating compelling stories and characters and more on getting names and catchphrases over, like, hey guys, TV time, and Nueve. I think Jericho and even AEW would be better if we just had a break from Y2J. 4 strikes for AEW. Number 6, the continuing decay of the NWA. Before I dive into this, I gotta say, there's no part of me that enjoys the NWA or any wrestling company failing. That said, I'm gonna be frank about what's happening with the NWA. The COVID-19 pandemic negatively affected the entire wrestling landscape. However, while WWE seemed to come out of it stronger, it was the opposite story for the NWA. Sure, it wasn't just COVID that hurt the NWA, but I think it was the starting point, and things have continued to get worse and worse. In October 2024, NWA Power was taken off the CW app. Granted, NWA wasn't on proper TV, but it was the biggest platform the NWA had ever been on since Billy Corgan took over in 2017. After getting the boot from the CW, NWA began posting episodes of Power to Twitter or X. Now, that wouldn't be such a big issue, but did you even know that? When the NWA was bought by Billy Corgan, it had energy and excitement behind it. But as the years went on, the NWA started to become less relevant and mocked more. Sure, Tyrus as NWA World Champion in 2023 wasn't good, but at least people paid attention. If 2023 was the year of mockery for the NWA, then 2024 was the year of irrelevance. Again, there's no part of me that enjoys saying that, but that's where we're at. That's 5 strikes against NWA, putting them at number 1. At least for now. Yeah. Number 5, AEW airs the CM Punk Jeff Hardy footage.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. This was honest. What was the point of this? You're getting another wrestler from a different company over the wrestler that you effed up and you decide to fire, which obviously maybe they should have had done any of this, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, what, this person's no longer with your company. So what was the purpose of you showing a video that related to him? It's going to get him more over. People are going to realize that this is stupid. Where are they going to go? Back to WWE. Bro, shout out to AEW.
August 2023, AEW hosted All In at Wembley Stadium in London. It was the company's biggest event yet in terms of attendance, and what should have been a monumental night for AEW ended up becoming one of its most infamous. Backstage, CM Punk and fellow AEW wrestler Jack Perry got into a real fight. Obviously, there were a number of events that led up to that point, but that whole saga could be a video in of itself. Anyways, the fight was broken up almost as soon as it started, and CM Punk soon left AEW and returned to WWE about 3 months later.
One of the biggest pops.
In April 2024, CM Punk did a big tell-all interview addressing the incident at Wembley Stadium for the first time. In response to this, AEW announced that they would show the security camera footage of the fight on their flagship show, Dynamite. The footage aired, and while it did increase viewership, it was a case of short-term gains and long-term pains. The decision didn't do anything to help AEW's image or favorability among fans. In fact, it had the opposite effect. Airing the footage just felt desperate, and
it did, until those gains that they got for that just brief amount of time was just because people wanted to see how this was going to really turn out to be. They weren't interested in the little storyline. It was just more of like, what? Let's see them crash right now, because they end up doing this, and this was they didn't need this.
It seemed like something WCW would do during its final years. It would have been one thing if AEW aired the footage shortly after the incident, but they chose to show it 7.5 months later.
Yeah.
It gave the impression that AEW was in such a need to get people to watch that they had to use a low-quality, silent 45-second clip of an ex-employee to increase viewership. I don't know what's worse.
Who's the number one of the number one guys in WWE? What was the point of this?
6 more strikes for AEW, but there's still 4 more rankings to go.
I think AEW lost. I'm pretty sure they lost. Right?
Number 4, WWE and money.
Yeah.
There are a lot of little things that WWE did in 2024 that I'm going to lump together. The reason is that, while they are different issues, they all revolve around one thing.
It's all about the money. It's all about the money.
Let's start with the most obvious, WWE's sponsors. Now, WWE has always had advertisers as part of their show, but it's getting ridiculous. Granted, WWE has been ramping up sponsors for a few years now, but 2024 was no exception. Any available spot around the ring seems to have a logo on it now. Not only that, but because there are so many advertisers, it takes time away from the actual show, especially during the PLEs. However, an even bigger offense than that is WWE's adoption of dynamic ticket pricing. This causes tickets to adjust in price based on things like demand and timing. This has resulted in WWE tickets skyrocketing in price. WrestleMania 41 tickets, for example, are well into the 4 figures, and some even go for 5. The cheapest tickets I found for both nights of WrestleMania 41 were $1,000, and that's not even counting all the taxes and fees that are added on.
Yeah,
but hey,
dude.
people are still buying them. Also, let's get rid of the post-show press conferences. I know this doesn't exactly fit into this point, but hey, those have sponsors too. Really, the media scrum/press conference idea was neat when AEW introduced it, but I think it's run its course. Particularly for WWE, they're just corporate PR, and WWE patting themselves on the back. Sure, there's the occasional highlight like Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso getting drunk, but those are few and far between. Plus, whenever a good question gets asked, like the Vince McMahon scandal or diversity issues, the response is usually just corporate copy and paste and doesn't really answer anything. That's a whopping 7 strikes for WWE, tying them and AEW.
Damn.
Number 3, AEW's decline. Like with the NWA, I don't get a kick out of AEW struggling. However, before I get into that, I must acknowledge AEW's biggest business win in 2024. In October, the company announced it had signed a new media rights deal with Warner Bros. Discovery for $550 million,
Damn.
an increase from their previous deal. That's excellent news for AEW, and something that can't be ignored, because there was a lot of bad news in 2024. One of the most obvious is AEW's decline in attendance. Pictures of half-empty AEW arenas were not uncommon in 2024, but what's worse than declining...
Look, I'm sorry. I understand Ricochet going over there, but the one person that I really wish they never went over there was Edge, bro. Because we could have had Edge and John Cena just like one more time for this final run.
Attendance is declining TV viewership. Pretty much all 3 of AEW's TV shows saw a decrease in viewers from each quarter in 2024. Even AEW's flagship show Dynamite brought in fewer viewers in the 4th quarter of 2024 than when Collision and Rampage launched. In fact, AEW Rampage got canceled in December 2024, presumably because of the numbers it was bringing in. There were also some backstage issues with AEW as well. Wrestlers were being left at home because the company didn't have anything for them, as well as AEW extending some wrestlers' contracts, despite said wrestlers wanting to leave. In general, AEW doesn't have the same excitement that it had when it first launched in 2019. There are a ton of reasons for that, but regardless, 2024 was a mixed bag for AEW, to say the least. 8 strikes for All Elite Wrestling.
8?
Number 2, Tessa Blanchard returns to
Oh,
TNA.
that's right.
In 2020, Tessa
this.
Blanchard was a rising star in women's wrestling. She was signed to TNA, but it seemed inevitable that she would end up in either WWE or AEW. She was that good. In fact, Blanchard became the first and only woman to hold the TNA World Championship. Tessa was on top of the world, and then she destroyed it all with one tweet. In January 2020, Tessa Blanchard posted on Twitter saying, "Hey women, try supporting one another. Cool things happen." This prompted backlash from multiple female wrestlers who said Tessa had bullied women backstage, publicly put them down, tried to
Chelsea went
blacklist
in.
people, and even spat
I didn't
in
know
the
about
black
this
woman's
until
face
recent,
and
when she
called
came
her
back.
the N-word. Despite this, TNA stood by her and only
Are you
fired
white?
Tessa Blanchard when she refused to come to work. Rather than apologize, Blanchard pretty much doubled down. This forced Tessa to wrestle in Mexico, as no US company would touch her. That was until December 2024, when TNA secretly rehired Tessa Blanchard. In fact, wrestlers and even some higher-ups in the company didn't know Tessa was being brought back until she arrived backstage for her return. The locker room was reportedly split on Tessa being brought back, but there were people who were glad to see her. Now, it's not so much Tessa Blanchard herself returning that makes this list, but how TNA handled it and the message it sent. The fact that they felt they needed to hide Blanchard's return is a red flag to begin with. However, it feels like a slap in the face. TNA fired Scott D'Amore, someone who is very pro TNA, helped rebuild the brand, and never embarrassed the company. But they rehired Tessa Blanchard, someone with a list of terrible allegations, and someone who wouldn't film promo videos from her home while being the world champion. I get from TNA's side that they're losing talent, but the way they went about bringing Tessa Blanchard back was completely wrong. 9 strikes against TNA.
Yeah, I think they're
Now, this
losing
next
talent to
ranking goes
WWE
from-
because WWE got that new WWE ID and then the NXT TNA thing going on together. Like, we already know Joe Hendry's probably gonna go to WWE eventually. I think he's probably showing up in his Royal Rumble. I'm already assuming that. Jordan Grace, if that's her name, right? Jordan Grace, the Juggernaut. If she goes, bro, she's obviously going to WWE, and she don't even got to deal with NXT, bro. She's such a big star in TNA, and she was really good in NXT. I think they're gonna give her the Jade treatment, and I'm assuming Jade's probably gonna come back to Royal Rumble. So let's see.
Which company had the worst 2024? And number 1, Vince McMahon and lawsuits.
Ah,
You knew this was
yeah.
coming.
I low-key forgot about the lawsuit, dude. I remember it, but I forgot that it was the beginning of 2024.
Sure, the allegations
Damn.
against Vince McMahon are just that, allegations. But if just 1% is true, that's more than enough to earn a spot on this list. The Janelle Grant allegations are the most well-known, but there were so many more. Allegations surfaced from a previously unpublished statement from Ashley Massaro, and Vince McMahon and WWE were later hit with an entirely different lawsuit from the infamous Ring Boy scandal. To say WWE's lawyers and PR team had their work cut out for them in 2024 is an understatement. That gives WWE 10 more strikes and gives them the dishonor of having the worst 2024.
But that, you know what? I get it.
Now that doesn't
I
mean
get it.
WWE wasn't good in 2024.
Yeah, they were really
Far from
good.
it.
They were
I'm still
good.
amazed at the stuff Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio got away with. To see what they did with each other, watch this video.
Yo, shout out to Top Out Corner for making this dope video, dude. That's right. I literally forgot about the whole allegation thing for a second. That did happen in 2024. Ah, man, 2024 was just a crazy year for a lot of people and in wrestling in general. So the fact that we're here now in 2025 and we got a lot of brand new things coming up, let's enjoy this new year and let's see what wrestling got for us. Guys, like I said already, if you haven't done so already, thank you so much for supporting me. Please subscribe to your boy. Hit that power bomb on that subscribe button for me and Tap Out Corner. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Road to 2K subscribers. Thank you so much. Peace.